Hello everybody, my name is Tommy the Keyblade Master, and welcome to my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles month. Now we're back to an Ubisoft game. However, this one's a really great game. It is actually modeled after my first RPG. So you're asking, what was my first RPG? Well, it was on the NES. Did it involve saving a princess from evil dragons? Nope. Did it involve me collecting crystals and trying to bring balance back to the earth? Nope. So what was it about? It was about beating the crap out of school kids and stealing their lunch money. River City Ransom is still one of my favorite NES games to play, and it has a lot of really great RPG elements hidden underneath it. Ubisoft decided to take that into their GBA version of their TMNT game. This is based off the 2007 movie, and it is a pretty good game. However, I believe it has been overlooked. Why? Well, it came out in 2007, right at the very end of the GBA's lifespan. Most people had moved on to the DS Lite, and I don't think anybody was noticing that Nintendo was burying their 20-year-old Game Boy brand at the time. So it didn't get noticed. Still, seek this one out. It's a really great game. Let's move on to the review so I can tell you why. The story is probably the worst element in this game. It follows the 2007 TMNT movie, and it follows it a little bit too closely. Now, I don't mind little cutscenes telling you exactly what's going on before and after the scene. Those don't affect me much. However, what does affect me is that you can't choose a turtle for a stage if that turtle wasn't there in the scene. So, stages 1 and 3, you are stuck as Raphael. And if you can't tell from my other Ninja Turtles videos I made, I don't use Raphael all that much in these other games, and same here, I would prefer not to use them. Unfortunately, any scene that involves the Night Watcher, you're going to be using him, whether you want to or not. And then in another scene, Leonardo has been kidnapped, so you won't be able to use him. So that's kind of unfortunate that the story does get in the way of the game. Fortunately, it's a small complaint overall, unless you're a fan of Leonardo, because I think he's only available for half the stages, but the rest of the turtles don't have that problem. Still, it sucks that Raph is the only turtle that you can choose for the whole game. The rest of them drop in and out, and I find that disappointing. Fortunately, the rest of the gameplay makes up for this little snafu. If you're wondering about the plot, like I said, it follows the 2007 movie. Basically, Leonardo's been gone for a year off training. He's got to make up with the other turtles, form them into a team again, because some magic statues have been brought to life and some ancient warlord wants to open up a magic portal in New York that could destroy the whole world. The real movie's plot was a little bit more complicated, but that is pretty much the gist. The graphics in this game are pretty good. While it obviously does not have the resolution of the Super Nintendo's Turtles in Time, the colors are pretty good and the sprites are well drawn. They use a mixture of animation style from the 2007 movies. All the turtle sprites are obviously based off the 2007 movie. However, it does use a few for kids character designs in this game. In fact, our very first boss in this game is Han, who was a major member of the 4Kids television series cast, but did not star in the 2007 movie. And I really like the idea of Han being the first boss and his purple dragon goons as being beginner level enemies. It was a nice touch by Ubisoft, the developers, to get in what was the current cartoon at the time into this game. Also great is that this game does not make a mistake that a lot of GBA brawlers did, which was, yes, the GBA was capable of having really large, really pretty looking sprites in its games. However, you had to be careful because the Game Boy Advance screen was a small screen. It was not a television screen. And oftentimes these brawlers would stack the screen so full of enemies and large enemies that you could not move around. This game does not make that mistake. The enemies are well sized but well detailed, and when you add in that there's also stills from the 2007 movies for a little cutscene durations during stages, all in all, the graphics in this game are pretty good. The sound in this game is okay. It's not great, but it's not bad. The music is appropriate enough for the scenes, and it's good enough for you not to mute it while playing. The sound effects for the fighting are also pretty good for GBA standards. Unfortunately, they do not have any clips from the actors from the movies reprising their roles here. This is unfortunate. While I do not like GBA games that overuse voice clips, just go back and take a look at my review of the original Mario Advance to see what I mean. Having a few voice clips here and there to help punctuate the action never hurts either. Still, I don't have any real gripes with the sound. It's pretty good too. Let's move on to the gameplay, the main star of this game. Back at the beginning of this review, I mentioned another game for the NES called River City Ransom. Where does this fit into TMNT? Well, in that game you could spend money that you got for beating up enemies and use it to buy food and other items to power up your character. TMNT for the GBA works the same way. You collect money from beating up enemies, and then in between stages you can go into the shopping mall and purchase other goods. You can purchase one-ups, you can purchase power-ups, you can purchase new skills, which is kind of handy. Also, in between stages, you can talk to Casey Jones or April on the rooftop to play mini games. I have never figured out the point to these. The EXP system really opens up this game a lot more than the other 16-bit brawlers. The fact that I can save money and then go and buy a hammer power-up that is more powerful than my typical turtle weapon is a nice added feature to this game. So the RPG mechanics in this game are great, but what about the standard fighting? I would also say it's pretty fun, if it's slightly different than what the other arcade-like brawlers were. First off, since it is copying River City Ransom, you are able to pick up fallen enemies' weapons and use them for a little while. They will break after a few uses, but still it's kind of nice to know that you have other weapon choices other than the weapon that your turtle has. And of course the money dropping is still there as well. Also new, since this isn't a multiplayer game and single player, you get to choose on many stages what your partner turtle will be. As you clobber bad guys, that meter will go up, and if you press one of the shoulder buttons, your turtle that you picked will come down and do a few attacks, or will leave you a health power-up. This is kind of a handy feature. Also, later in the game, once you leveled up your bond between you and the other turtles, you can pick up a special power-up that allows you to summon the other turtles to your side for one screen-clearing move. This game is about near perfect in its approach. However, there are a few things I have to call it out on. I've already mentioned them before, but I need to really nitpick them specifically now because they do hold this game back. Okay, the first thing I have to nitpick in this game are the stages that you can only play as Raphael, the first one and the third one. Now, I can understand keeping the game simple in the first stage, only letting you pick one turtle, and not being able to summon the other turtles just to keep it simple to break people into the gameplay mechanics. I can understand that. But stage 2 is a regular stage where you get to summon a turtle and build your bond and all that. But then you go right back to Raphael for stage 3. It doesn't make any sense, and it kind of runs counterintuitive to all the other Ninja Turtles games, which is all about selecting your turtle. This one forces you to play as certain ones, and it really doesn't get in-depth until stage 5 out of 7. It's a good thing that the rest of the mechanics for this game works, or else this would have been a serious problem. Second nitpick I have is kind of a small one, and it's important to realize this wasn't during the GBA's prime. This was one of the last games released for it, and that is there is no multiplayer mode in this at all. No link cable support whatsoever. Kind of a downer because brawlers like this are always fun to play on multiplayer. It would have been nice to have them release this like on Xbox Live Arcade with a 4-player mode, but they never did that. That said, Ubisoft did give us Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which is very similar to this, except it does have 4-player mode, and it does have the River City Ransom feel to it as well. Definitely worth checking out Scott Pilgrim. That said, I prefer the Ninja Turtles license over Scott Pilgrim. That's just my taste. I give this game about a 4.5 out of 5 if I had to rate it. It's almost close to perfect. It does have a few flaws that are noticeable, especially the being forced to play as Raph parts do annoy me. But the rest of the combat is so good and so fresh that it's fun. Having that light RPG system that's borrowed heavily from River City Ransom just makes this game feel like a classic old school throwback. Definitely worth checking out if you have a GBA. If you do not have anything that can play Game Boy Advance, well, I do have some good news. The original River City Ransom can be picked up on the Wii for $5. And then there's Scott Pilgrim vs. the World if you have a Xbox 360 or PS3. Both of these two games play a lot like this one, and they're definitely worth a pickup to play as well. Anyways, while I may have just gotten done playing one of the better TMNT games, my next game's going to make the original one look like a freaking masterpiece. It's time to review Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadow for the Xbox Live Arcade and PSN. Someone please lock away my zapper. I might be tempted to put it in my mouth. In the meantime, I invite you to subscribe to my channel for more of my reviews, let's plays, and vlogs. Thank you for your time. I'm Tommy the Keyblade Master, signing out.